If you want to see more videos and interviews like this from influential people in tech, finance, and sports, subscribe to the channel and make sure you hit the bell to be alerted. And go a step further and join the YouTube and membership area for early releases of videos like this. I'm out of here. Ha! All right, guys. Thanks again, Doug, for coming on. This is the third time you've been on the channel. I always enjoy your company. I think the first thing I want to get to is this EVM. This is exciting, man. Tell us about this Telos Ethereum virtual machine you guys are working on and how that will just change the game for both Ethereum and for Telos.
Yeah, thanks, CB. It's great to be here. I always love you being on your show. You have the best audience. We get such great comments and so smart in your comment section. So
yeah, definitely.
So I would say that Telos EVM is a Ethereum virtual machine. So basically, this is a system on Telos that can run any Ethereum Solidity contract, right? And so this is built by a really smart developer named Syed Jaffrey at EOS Cafe Block, but the code that he built alone isn't enough. So we're working with him to build all the other pieces, right? You also need to be able to interact with MetaMask, and you need to be able to have Block Explorer. So we're building all that out on Telos. But what that means is any Ethereum contract can get in there and deploy on Telos instead, eliminate gas fees, right? Increase their capacity and speed a lot. There's a lot of kinds of platforms that aren't interacting with a lot of different contracts on Ethereum. They're just kind of doing their thing, and any of those would be appropriate for Telos EVM. And they can basically remove their gas fees. They can this is probably most appropriate for any kind of enterprise system that's using Ethereum as a back end for their business systems or supply chain, anything like that. These types of systems, do a lot of transactions, but they're really using blockchain as the immutable record ledger.
Mm-hmm.
And any of these would be appropriate on Telos EVM. So we actually think that this is a way that that Telos can be, an Ethereum expander. Like I don't want to be, I don't even believe in Ethereum killer. Nothing's going to kill Ethereum, but it can be expanded and improved by taking some of these things, some of these contracts, and taking them off Ethereum, running them without any changes needed on something like Telos EVM, and eliminating those costs so that it doesn't necessarily cost $38 to farm some sushi.
Yeah, more than that now, Doug. It's like $45, but hey.
I guess that tells you when I got into it, but yeah, I mean,
it's a rich man's game now, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of talk about. I like to talk about. I know DeFi is decentralized finance, but to me, it's democratized finance, right?
Mm-hmm,
it's taking these cool ways to make lots of money that have always been, the providence of the elite, and it's bringing it down to everyone. Unless you have a $38 transaction fee every time you want to harvest or something, and then you better be making $40 because you're paying 38 in gas fees. So by some of these things, we could come completely off of Ethereum and run on Telos, and as a sort of a second layer to Ethereum for a lot of different kinds of dApps and platforms, but that would also reduce the costs for people who are running these DeFi and things like that. I mean, that is a problem right now. If you look at I was an Ethereum developer also, and if you look at a lot of sort of the Ethereum apps right now, they're complete. It's not just that the sushi and all these other platforms are paying $38 per transaction. All the legacy ones have to pay that too, so it's making them kind of unusable, right? It's one thing if you're paying if you're paying these kind of high gas fees on something and you're actually making money at it, but if you're doing it just because you built your business system on Ethereum and that's where it is, $38 every time you want to record something is crazy, right? So it makes it unusable. So Telos EVM is a way to make that usable again.
I was thinking about this, Doug. Is there a scenario? I'm not trying to sell fear porn here, but is there a death spiral scenario with Ethereum and these gas fees where it gets so, because there was one transaction I was trying to attempt, it was $124.
Wow. I would not call anything a death spiral, but what I would say is it's going to reach a point of self-limitation, right? So if you are trying to do a transaction that is, going to make you $40 and you have to pay $38 for it, you may still do that, but if you're, it limits what you're going to do. So it makes that cost. I mean, part of the pitch on blockchain for these past many years has been that it reduces costs. Well, if it doesn't reduce costs, then all the other things are greatly reduced in their importance, right? I mean, a lot of things come down to cost. We can have a lot of advantages, but when people vote with their pocketbook. So what you're going to see, I wouldn't say it's a death spiral. I wouldn't say that at all. I don't think Ethereum can be killed. I wouldn't want to predict that. Famous last words. But I think that there will be a limitation. People will use it for less. People will deploy less to it because it's just so expensive. Like if you're right now a dApp developer and you were planning to develop on Ethereum, and suddenly your transactions are so expensive that that people aren't going to use it. Like you might have already done a lot of Solidity programming. You might be ready to launch, but are you going to launch right now? I mean, a lot of people are going to look at that and go, "Gosh, this increase in usage is great, but it kills our business case." Well, those are the exact same things that could come onto Telos Decide or Telos EVM and deploy and escape all those costs. So
to my understanding, the EVM, you won't be able to communicate with other dApps that are on the actual native Ethereum.
That's
blockchain.
Right. It's its own.
Give us a use case for the EVM.
So that's exactly right. So it becomes its own sort of bubble, just like Ethereum is its own bubble, and then you need some kind of oracles or sort of off-chain ways to connect to other chains. That's how all chains are. So these running on any Ethereum app running on Telos EVM will be in its own bubble until we build those oracles that talk to EOS. When EOS 2 comes out, Telos EVM could easily be a shard on Ethereum 2.0. But obviously, we're not waiting for that because there's no good time on when that can come out. But there's a number of things like in the DeFi space, which is the main usage for Ethereum right now, which are it's about chaining transactions and having flash loans and things like that. Those would not be appropriate for Telos EVM unless the whole ecosystem built on it. And that's more likely that those things are just going to build natively on the C++, coding of Telos.
Telos, right? Yeah.
But if you're running a business system, there's a lot of systems that are essentially more or less siloed. They just use it as a back end to track their own stuff, right? That's the difference between a platform and a network. On a network, like if DeFi on Ethereum right now is a network, right? People are moving and gaining from more different apps, right? But there's a lot of things that are still using Ethereum as a platform where they just deploy their app and it doesn't really interact with much of anything else except for on money. All of those would be very suitable for Telos EVM.
This is another neat one here that you brought to me. You shot over it via Twitter. Is Transledger whole idea. That's going to allow you to actually get on Uniswap. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're really excited about that. Along with this whole Ethereum expander, but instead of Ethereum killer thing, this is a way that we can work with other chains. So this is a wrapped token system where Bitcoin, Ethereum, a number of different coins can be brought over as a wrapped token, which I think people are pretty familiar with at this point. and run on Telos. As an experiment, a few days ago, I brought in some wrapped BTC, and I did something that you could never do on Bitcoin, which was I sent it around to I sent around 100,000 transactions at 1 Satoshi each, right? With no, and you can only do that because there's no gas fees, and it took, I think it took like less than 4 minutes or something.
I was trying to explain to my buddy that literally sending a transaction on Telos is faster than receiving an email or sending an email.
Yeah, half a second. There's no congestion. There's no cost. Yep. Everything goes. So there's no front running. That's another exact. Because it's so fast, you can't do these things. There's no gas fees, so nobody can pay more to get ahead of you. Mm-hmm. It's exciting. So, but we also want to. So I see DeFi on Telos. I see DeFi on Telos being based on these wrapped tokens, like what's happening with Transledger, and where we are able to take Telos off as a wrap token on Ethereum, which means that we can be on Uniswap and participate in all of those. But we can also do the other way, and which we already have Ethereum or Ether on Telos as a wrap token, and we can rebuild all of these markets. And for people who want to, they can do all the same yield farming. They can bring over all these same tokens as wrap tokens, and do whatever they want to do with them. Build that whole DeFi infrastructure on a half-second, no fee, no front running based model, which I think is where we need to go. I think right now we're in a very exciting and heady days, and people are paying a lot. But what's going to happen is people are, cooler heads will prevail, and people will start looking at the losses that come from faulty code, front running, right, which people aren't even really talking about yet, but it's very important, and kills the whole democratized finance idea. If somebody else can pay more to get ahead of you and steal some of your profits, and then just the transaction fees that are making it so it's only people who are moving around thousands of dollars per transaction can afford to make any kind of profits with these high fees. So we can take all those things over to Telos, and people can have their work any way they want. They can work with Telos and all these other things on Ethereum, on Uniswap, on Sushi, and they can use all these other tokens on Telos at a basically zero fee, zero transaction time basis. So that's the very near future. That's what we're going to be seeing really soon.
Excellent.
And when we told them, hey, you guys have to be looking, because people in Telos are also in the Steem world, and we saw what all was happening with Steem and Hive, and I frankly I think Hive is great. But what they wanted to do, we went to them and we told them what we could do, and they were already aware of Telos, and they were excited because we were on their list, I think, and is one of those really great timing things. So they wanted, not only if they were going to move chains, they wanted not only to get an improvement on just getting off the dysfunction of Steem at the time, but they wanted to move towards the future, right? You don't want to have to move chains every couple of years. That's not ideal. And so we showed them what we had, and we showed them that so there's a lot of things on Steem based apps that they get for free from Steem, and if you want to do those in some other platform, you need to actually rebuild them yourselves. Well, we had been working on a just like the Telos EVM for Ethereum, we've been working on a different set of contracts that would allow any Steem or Hive app to come over and deploy on Telos. And so we showed them that, and they were the first to use it, and it let them take all these things about their program that were pretty much baked into Steem, right? Power up, power down cycles, things like that, and they could now fine tune those any way they wanted. And then they could come in and in their next step use the Telos SI governance engine to let their users vote on that, right? So they can become fully driven by their users in the near future. I think that's on their roadmap. So we offered a lot for a lot of development that we've already done on the Telos platform. That's available to these dApps. They were really inspired by that, and they thought that offered them a way forward for the next several years.
Yeah, man, that's pretty neat, and I think they're gonna have a great time over there and really enjoy the scalability that Telos offers. I thought the gaming one was pretty neat as well. That was a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
Tell us about that one, because I've said for many years that I thought gaming would be one of the beachhead strategies for blockchains to really garner adoption. And with this coming on with Steem and Unity, that's big, man. Tell us about this whole partnership.
Yeah, there's a few things. One is that I really like is something called Farm Game, where you can where it's an esports platform. But what you're talking about here is something called Qdo, which is a gaming platform that allows any Unity-based games, which are millions. It creates a SDK for people to integrate Qdo tokens into those. So now, if people can take just a regular game based in Unity and add cryptocurrency to it, add their own cryptocurrency, or add the Qdo cryptocurrency to it really easily, and that all runs on Telos. So they have a really fun tower defense game called Blocks. It's crypto themed. I really like it, and that is that's still in beta, but it's about to release. That was their first one, but on the down low, I know they have several others that they've been lining up. So when they do come out, it's going to be 5, 6, 8 games that are really fun games, right? They're not crypto games. A lot of crypto games are kind of slow and boring, and these are just regular games. But there's like a proof of play mechanism that's handled on Telos, so if people actually played it, and then they can reward them with the token, and then they can do in-app purchases with the token. It's just a great system. I think they're going to see a lot of these. And then Farm Game, that's you can play games, esports games, and basically earn money for that. And that's all built on and tracked on Telos.
Yeah, I watched I think actually this video right here where they were earning tokens for playing this game. I said, this is what we need. This is exactly what we need. And as you stated, most of the people aren't going to want to play a crypto game. They're going to want to play just a regular game.
Yeah.
And earn some type of incentive from it. That's the key.
Yeah, that's the DApp 2.0 thing that I've been talking about for a while, which is basically, DApps, we all know what the first DApps were like. They're like crypto or whatever. You just sign in through MetaMask and do all these things and, approve each transaction one at a time and stuff like that. And that's great and had its place and is part of the journey. But, DApp 2.0 is going to be where it's looking like any other game, any other mobile. You sign in once, maybe you have some limits to what you can improve. Maybe you can't send, $200, without an extra, yeah, I really want to. But in most ways, it's just like signing into Facebook or something, right? Or Gmail or anything like that. You kind of sign in, you stay hooked in through a WebSocket, and you're not thinking about the fact that you're using a blockchain any more than the way that people think about the fact they're using HTML, right? Or HTTP. You just don't think about that stuff anymore, because regular users, right, our wives and fathers and brothers and everything, they're not crypto weirdos. They don't want to think about that stuff. They don't think that's cool. They just want to do what they want to do. That's what we're trying to empower on Telos. And when you see those big numbers on Blocktivity that you're talking about, a lot of those things are sort of behind the scenes stuff that's not flashy. You don't look at every transaction. I mean, you could, but basically these are things that are using the Telos blockchain as a immutable, transparent, trustless layer. But these are transactions that are just ticking off, in the background, doing things. Some of it's liquidity farming, like you're seeing a lot of now in DeFi. Some of it are these things like people playing games, right? They may not really be aware of the fact that they're on Telos. I think that might be why we have some sort of lower visibility, because we're already in this DApp 2.0, vision. And so it's not, we're not screaming we're Ethereum or whatever at users, right? They're kind of unaware of it.
Yeah, yeah. And I on the new Blocktivity website, Doug, I don't see, because this is the beta new one, I don't see the utilization meter that they used to have on the old site. What is the current, do you know
capacity?
Yeah, what is the CPU or utilization capacity? What level is Telos at, even with these numbers that we see right now? Do you know offhand?
Well, it's so low that it's not even worth mentioning.
It's not even worth mentioning.
Yeah, like right now, so it looks like we're doing like 4 point something million per 24 hours, and our record is 32 million for 24 hours. But we actually upgraded to EOCO 2.0 since then. So it's our capacity is huge. You look at EOS, right? Their record is 115 million transactions per 24 hours, and we're on the same basic protocol, so we could easily do that. So we're probably growing our capacity faster than we're growing our usage right now. We'd like to. That's a nice problem to have.
So you spoke about this whole DeFi thing. We spoke before going live a little bit about the farming and stuff, and I think it's a great experiment. And a lot of these exchanges are in trouble, if you ask me. Let's talk about this one new idea that you guys are putting together, a T-bill or T-bond. T-bond, right? Not T-bill, T-bond. It stands for Telos Bond, though. Tell me and the audience about this one. I'm really excited about this.
Okay, great. Yeah, so we're actually we're putting a lot of DeFi pieces together and for people on Telos, and we think that's going to be huge. One of them we're doing now that's actually new is this T-bond system, and it's something that's basically like an analog of a T-bill in a way, right? T-bill, you buy the bond, and then there's a government promise to pay at the end, and it's AAA rated and everything's great. With a T-bill, we do something different, which is we create an NFT that we transfer, and that NFT has whatever number of tokens locked up, and you buy it at a significant discount. So let's say you're getting you're buying, when we're thinking like 6 months, a year, 2 years, 4 years, which seems like a long time in crypto, but it means that you can lock in a rate of return for a long time. Like some people are like, hey, I'm not gonna sell this stuff, right? I'm long term on this. But the reality is a lot of times life changes, and then you need to get out. And if you have a truly illiquid asset, then you have to pay a really high rate of return because you're asking people to lock up something. So instead, this is an NFT that can be traded on a secondary market. The tokens go with it. Whoever owns it is buying the tokens, but they're still locked up. And one of the problems we were trying to figure out was how do we fund the expansion onto other exchanges, big exchanges like Coinbase and Kraken and things like that, and pay their fees, because we've identified that as probably a reason why the price is where it is, right? It's just not very accessible for people.
Yeah, that is another reason. Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
So we never did an ICO, so we don't have a big fat fun stack of funds, but we do have some, and we have governance rules about how we can use these. So this is a way that we could, within our governance rules, create this new product and not have these tokens and sell these tokens, but not have them immediately go onto the market, right? And just kind of keep the price depressed, right? It gives us some time to get on these exchanges, get things started, and hopefully, make it more accessible and build some momentum. Whatever, I don't know if that'll happen. I think that may happen, but that was the reason for it, right? People can buy these, they can get a huge discount, they can sell them later, right? And it works just like it was designed to be just like a T-bill.
So explain to people who may not know, some of my audience may not know what a non-fungible token is, an NFT. Kind of explain that and how it's different than a traditional token and would maybe be considered a security. in
Yeah,
a sense.
exactly. So an NFT, it stands for non-fungible token. Every token that's a cryptocurrency is fungible, just like a dollar is fungible. If I give you a dollar and you give me another dollar back, I'm not going to be mad that you gave me, a different dollar. They're all the same, right? But these non-fungible tokens aren't all the same. Each one is unique. And there's a there's an NFT platform on Telos called the Marble Standard that we built this around, that allows you to also lock up tokens. It's not the first time it's ever been done. For example, the Engine gaming token allows you to imbue Engine tokens into a game asset or something like that. So this just lets us put Telos tokens into an NFT. So when you trade the NFT, when you sell the NFT to somebody, all those tokens are in it. We're not promising to pay in the future. They're there already, but they're locked up. And so they'll only unlock and become liquid on the maturity date. But with a secondary market, I can trade that around. And if it were a promise to pay, it's not custodial, right? So it means that no one else is holding your money. You have your own money. That's why we believe it's not a security. You're holding onto your money just as if you bought tokens. The only thing is they're tokens that are locked up until a certain period. And that's a pretty standard thing that happens. A lot of teams lock their tokens up. This is just a way that it opens up to everybody. We're using it on Telos, but what I think is this is a very attractive way to raise funds for other projects. Even secondary funds, right? So when you launch a new project, you can do ICOs, or you can do whatever you're going to do, right? And it's easier in that space to get the first funds. But there's a lot of projects right now that are still good projects, but they're running out of funds. How do they get their secondary funds? Well, one of the ways they could do it is use this T-Bond platform and sell tokens that are locked up in the future, but are still sold, so they don't have to convince someone that they're not a security. So I think it opens up a lot of avenues, either for initial funding of projects or for future funding of projects. One of the problems even in ICOs was that people would be selling tokens and having a market for tokens that didn't have anything actually happening, and that's one of the reasons that they were deemed a security. If you sell a utility token for something that's actually up and running, then that's one of the signs that it's not going to be considered security. Obviously, I'm not a securities lawyer, but that's my understanding, and I think that's a common understanding. So this allows people to do that. The T-Bond platform allows people to do that. We think there's going to be a lot of trading, because you can buy something at a great discount, and in the future you can want most of that money back, and you can sell it, and it'll still, you can make money on it, but it'll still be a discount to somebody else from the present price. That's how the T-bill, that's how the U.S. Treasury bill market works, and it's one of the largest single asset markets in the world, right? That's the stuff the economy really, it's 100 times bigger than the stock market, for example.
Exactly. No, that's great. And when is this kind of idea, this infrastructure going to be rolling out?
Yeah, well, we actually built it. It's already built. We have a process. Because it requires us to use funds from a source that's not currently allocated, we need to go through our governance process, the Telos Amend process, which is a 29-day voting process. But we've already sort of talked this through to the community. We've told them about it. We got their feedback. We've been doing all that sort of political process, so that we are making sure that this is something people really want. And we'll be launching the 29-day voting period, the Telos Amend voting, any day now.
Nice.
And so the language is already out there. People have had a chance to read it and decide, and comment on it. So that's going to come any day now. And in the background, we already built the Telos core devs have already built the token contract, and we're already working on a marketplace front end, and we're working with exchanges to who may want to be a marketplace for the NFT, for the secondary market. So we're putting all the pieces together. I think it's very, very likely that once it passes, if it passes, that we can move forward with it very swiftly. And we want to, right? Because we have exchanges, that would love to list Telos, and we'd love to be on, but it's just they would love it, not so much that they're waiving their listing fee. Nobody loves anything quite that much, but these exchanges would love to have us if we can pay their listing fee, and so we want to empower that with this.
Yeah, and another thing you talked about was that some changes are coming to the network. One being that the staking rewards are going to be back at around 17% in the Rex.
Yeah, they're back there.
Right? They're back there now. Okay, it's not reflected on the site, so we'll have to get that definitely.
What does it say on this?
14.32.
Well, that's not a lot. I don't think that particular page is live. If you look in like blocks.io or something like that, or Squirrel Wallet or something, it'll show you what it's actually at.
Gotcha. So tell people about Rex and how that works again. Yeah. So most people still don't even know how EOS.io works. So just explain really quickly how that works with Telos. The Rex.
So like we were talking about just a minute ago, the Telos token gives people resources to use the network, right? If you have 1% of the Telos that's staked at any time, then you have 1% of the resources of the CPU and net of the platform. Usually it's like there's a bunch of a dot and a bunch of zeros before that. But so you need resources to run a dApp on Telos. A lot of people hold more tokens than they actually need. So Rex is a resource exchange, meaning instead of staking your tokens that you own for yourself, you can stake them into a market that people can borrow, and people borrow for that. They pay in that, and and then you get the increased rewards from that. That's a sort of an OG DeFi kind of thing.
It is. Yeah, it really is.
People don't know about it though, because because the capacity of the networks are so high. The returns from Rex on EOS, for example,
are so low,
very low, right?
Yeah.
And that will change in time. But right now, everyone's looking to maximize their yield. So at Telos, we had a group of funds. This is some time ago that we had reserved for people whose tokens were on exchanges, and at the Genesis, and most of those were not claimed by exchanges. We couldn't just give those to exchanges. We had to, we had to have them come and claim them. They didn't claim them. Time passed. They can still claim them anytime, but it looks like those were just going to sit there. And so we had the option. We could either burn those, but we'd seen that token burns don't necessarily actually work as intended. People get excited about it for a second, but then it doesn't do anything. And we thought it's better if we could use those to eliminate all inflation on the chain and pay for all the things that would normally be inflation, like block producer rewards and Telos Works funding and things like that. We'll just use that. We'll just feed that from that exchange reserve fund into these other things. Well, the main place we're putting them is into a Rex fund. Right. So it's basically a way to redistribute to the current users all these extra tokens that were sitting around. People really like that idea. It's a really high, it started out, it was in the very early days, like a lot of things, it started out like incredibly high, like over 30%, but quickly it sort of dropped down into a regular thing. But the regular thing has gotten down to about 14%.
14, yeah.
But then what we did is that initially was passed under a Telos amend proposal called the Telos Economic Development Plan, TEDP, and as things went forward, some sort of activist investors in Telos said, hey, a bigger proportion of this should go to the Telos the Telos holders and less to things like worker proposals. So there was some discussion over that over a couple months, and then a new Telos amend proposal was put in called the TED 2 plan, and that just added more tokens to what's given into Rex, and that's why it's coming back up over. It's going to stair step over the next year as it increases. So we think it's going to get back to, the 20% range, which is crazy because this is not some unaudited contract that we just like threw up. This is something that's been, came from block one. It's been audited. We have been working with it for a long time. There's no sort of like execution risk on the code.
Right.
It's safe.
Yeah, and then in a low interest rate environment that we're in, if you told me 6% on Rex, I'm there.
Yeah.
So
It's just
20%
people just don't
is just
know about it. People don't know about it. I mean, people aren't looking at Telos. One of the things that happened kind of this week that was, or like 2 weeks ago, which was kind of cool, is we realized that there was, even though we weren't on a lot of exchanges, we built a little contract that allows people to basically automatically buy Telos. So now people can.
Oh man, that's huge.
Why
was huge.
Yeah, in the last two, and we've been trying to do this through other sources, but now we just kind of like got DeFi crazy, and we said we can do this. We can build a smart contract to do this. So about when people look at the chart and they're like, hey, why did 2 or 3 weeks ago things really start picking up? We think it's because it was so much easier. All people have to do is basically send it to their address. So they can withdraw EOS and it goes through this automatic swap protocol and gets sent to their Telos account. So that's made it a lot easier, and I think a lot of people have onboarded since that. So that's why
I've gotten a lot of people to come on through that. And so that's so great to see that functionality set up, man.
You told us, man. I mean, you and I and some of the Telos folks talked offline.
Yep.
And you said, hey, you guys gotta, you gave us some great advice. It's like, it doesn't matter as much all the things you do if people can't buy the token, right? You got to be on these bigger exchanges. That was really good advice. We took it. We're taking it to the extent we can. And personally, I mean, I think I hope that we keep seeing that value unlocked, because like we were talking about before, the comparables are just so far apart. It's not like we're 10%. We're like, we're not even 100%.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah. 1,000th.
So yeah, that's great, man. I'm glad to see you guys doing that. That was a big step to me. That just brought so much. I was just so excited when I saw that functionality set up. So I've gotten a lot of people to buy Telos because of that, just through EOS.
I love it. That's what you do that's what you can do when you have actual developers. One of the things, part of the secret sauce of Telos is we actually have developers who are working on things. And I'm not going to pick out any particular, any particular project, but that is actually more of a rarity in the blockchain space than, to be able to nimbly say, hey, we need this, and so we can put our developers on it and build it. And that's how we built a lot of things. That's how we built the Telos Decide governance engine. That's how we're building T-Bonds.
Can we quickly talk about the governance engine? I think that's like maybe the number one thing that separates Telos.
I mean, I think voting is a killer app. I think it's nobody's really talking about it because for a lot of reasons. But think about there's a lot of things in our lives that we have to vote on, like not just government elections, not just city councils have to vote on each measure before them. If you have a home that's in a condo owners association or homeowners association, there's a lot of things that you have to vote for. Voting is hard. Voting is still stuck in the 18th century, not even the 19th century. You're still literally passing around pieces of paper and counting them. I mean, we literally are doing that, right?
Hey, but you know what? I think that's for a reason, right?
Yeah, because
to a certain extent.
Because then you have there's transparency there. There's auditability built into that, right? And that's probably, you're absolutely right. That's probably why it's never been disrupted by when everything else has gone through these technology disruptions.
Exactly.
Voting hasn't, because that traceability, that transparency is important. Well, Telos Decide governance engine brings that traceability, auditability, perfect auditability, even better, right? You don't have to worry about a hanging chad. It brings that to the computer space, and it's going to, it means that you can do that mobily. You don't have to get into a room with all your neighbors and and debate on whether you should be wearing masks or not, or sitting 6 feet apart. You can just have these conversations using all the discussion tools that have existed and been disrupted, and then the actual vote comes down to Telos Decide. I think city councils should be using this. I think every, it's transparent voting. The difference between like voting for president, right, whether it's a secret ballot, or the voting that your school board does on whether they're going to, approve a teacher contract, right? Those are open and transparent. And most voting actually is. Any kind of open, transparent voting can be done automatically with Telos Decide governance engine and put on the blockchain. And one of the when we first started this, you could only really move around Telos tokens, right? Which is not great. But now that we have all these wrap tokens on Telos, like BTC and USDT and USDC and ETH and whatever, as wrap tokens that we can pass around with these contracts on Telos, and then people can actually use these tokens as sort of real money. I mean, most of these organizations are going to use US dollars, right? And because they're legacy organizations, but they can use those as wrapped tokens, and those can be allotted and sent into accounts that are run, right, all by this entire transparency system, where it's not just voting, but it's electing committees, giving powers to those committees, controlling spending. All of these things are empowered through Telos Decide. So we think it's going to be huge, and there's really not anybody out there. When other people talk about governance, when other blockchain projects talk about governance, they're talking about the governance of their own chain. That's where we started, but we realized that this is so important that if we could just externalize it so that any DApp could use it, that there was a major innovation.
That was probably a selling point for Appics, I would assume, right?
Oh yeah, for everybody. So everybody who comes in, whether they're going to do it immediately or not, it's on their roadmap. I mean, every crypto project wants to empower their users to do that, right? So and most of them, a lot of people have said, yeah, we always promised we were going to do this. We didn't actually know technically how we were going to do it, right? Seeds came to us early on, and they've built a really beautiful platform on this that uses it. And they said, you saved us a year of development time doing this. And I was like, great, that's what we want to do. Like, let's save every great project a year, right? So they don't have to build it themselves. And the other thing is not just the time though. So think about we're talking about DeFi and YAM and things like that, and people losing funds because a contract was buggy, right? This is, if we have everybody building their own governance platform for their own use, first of all, it's not efficient, right? And software's supposed to be efficient. But also, each one of those has to be audited. You never really know. But with Telos Decide as a chain level governance engine that anyone can use, it means that the Telos core devs have done it. If there are, so we're auditing it. If some bug comes up, somebody's going to find it, and we're going to have the resources to go and fix it, right? The apps don't have to fix their own bugs, essentially. Because in the underlying platform anyway, it's, there's a lot of advantages there, and it's open source software. And we already know that other platforms are using some elements of it. Like Wax has put their worker proposal system on a version of Telos Decide, and I know of others that are adopting it, and that's great. That's what we built it. It's sort of a Red Hat thing, right? Linux is sort of for everybody, and we want people to use it. But then there's the premium versions that are more advanced and have more features and more support, and that's Telos Decide on Telos, essentially.
Yeah, that's great, man. You guys are rocking it out there for sure. And I leave this in all of my videos, my daily videos that I do, but definitely get over there to Telos and create you an account. And just see how easy it is to use. I've had people, Doug, say, "Oh, I didn't know I can create an account and make it my own name."
Yeah, yeah, I know. It's like I know, like, because they come in from Ethereum and they're like, okay, well, my account's going to be OX, A9, whatever. Better write this down in 8 places. so so on Telos, it's like no, your name is Crypto Blood, 1-1, right? And the account creation is free. These are all things that we know people want to attract real everyday users, right?
And the thing about, and I just want to make this clarification for individuals, because to just compare EOS to Telos, on EOS there is a fee to create an account, because you got to fund that account and stake that RAM, that usage, right?
Yep.
You guys, how do you go about creating it for free for us on the Telos platform?
Well, so we knew it was important. We knew, like, for example, and this is like, if all EBT is going to bring in people who are using accounts for food stamps, right? We can't assume that all 15 million of those are going to know how to run MetaMask or something like that. These needs to be simple. So what we did initially is we set aside a pool of tokens for funding these, and we have a contract that stakes a small amount. It really costs us about 1 Telos per new account, and so we set that aside. But now we've been using our Telos Works funding platform in order to for the past several months to add more tokens to that. So these tokens that would have gone in and they would have funded something else, they're going into that platform. Those tokens actually never get sold because they're locked up in these new tokens. But right now, I think we can do another 6 or 8 million free accounts still. Good. And we're just kind of continuously funding that because it's easy now, right? We have the funds, and we want to get ahead of it, because we are looking for when we have those 150 million accounts, right?
Yeah.
And at some point when it gets to that point, we may have to find some other ways to do it, because at some point you do become a victim of your own success. But that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen until we have 10 or 20 million accounts. Then we'll have to deal with that. But for right now, we're good for the next several years, I think.
Yeah. Any last words, Doug? I appreciate you coming on as always. I always have a great conversation with you.
Famous last words. I'm really glad to be here. I think a lot of things are happening on Telos that are fantastic. It's super exciting time just in crypto in general. And I love that Telos is now has wrapped tokens from everything else. We're really integrating a lot of chains. We're seeing. I did an experiment the other day where I sent 100,000 transactions at 1 Satoshi each for no cost, right? If you think about the future, that kind of future of second layer for other chains, governance layer for other chains, and just the things that are happening on Telos, natively, I think it's a really exciting time. I'd encourage people to come and check it out. Go to telos.net, go to app.telos.net and create their own account. And just check it out, see what's happening, because it's a very exciting and positive place where people are just building and building, and they know that the future is coming. So
yeah, I'll have a link in the description, guys, for that, because if you sign up with that link, and you drop your Telos account name and hashtag Telos in the comments of this video or any other, I'm giving away 1,000 Telos every 2 weeks. So I'm trying to help that adoption and get people to understand how simple and easy it is to use the Telos network. Well, again, Doug,
I'll match that. I'll send you 1,000 Telos, and you can double it. How's that?
Oh man, that's really gonna. All right, so here you heard it first, here, guys. So 2,000 Telos. Let's do it, man. Let's do it. All right. Again, guys, thanks so much for joining and watching in on this Kicking It session with Douglas Horn from Telos. Lose Yourself, Eminem. Glad he picked that one. That's a nice one. We out of here, people.